You all might remember back in November when Keith Ellison first said he wanted to use a Koran, he was blasted by radio host and columnist Dennis Prager, who wrote that a swearing in using the Koran would undermine the fabric of American civilization and do more damage to the unity of America than the terrorists of 9/11. We're going to go deeper into this issue with my Out in the Open panel tonight. Joining me now, Roland Martin, executive editor of the Chicago Defender newspaper, host of the Roland S. Martin Show. Of course it would carry his name. Kamal Nawash, the founder and president of the Free Muslims Coalition, and Cenk Uygur, host of the Young Turks on the Air America radio network. Glad to have all three of you with us. Mr. Prager just said he recognizes that this was symbolic today, but he said at its core that this simple gesture emboldens terrorists and encourages the Islamicization of America.
Dennis Prager is not only a bigot, but he's a clown and un-American. He doesn't understand the whole idea of America. The whole idea of America is religious diversity, a secular country.
That may be true, but he did make the point that traditionally, this is the first congressman that's been sworn in on the Koran. I remember John Adams, of course, used illegal text, but since then, every single person sworn into Congress has been sworn in on the Bible.
Well, first of all, when they get sworn in, they don't use anything. They just use it in the photo ops. John Quincy Adams used law books, and Debbie Wasserman Schultz used the Jewish Bible. People use different Bibles for different photo ops all the time and different religious texts. That's the whole point of the country, is that we're a secular country. Every other country at the time that we were founded had a religion as their form of government. They said we are sponsoring Christianity, Islam, whatever it is, and America said we're not going to do it that way. And Dennis Prager, after all these years, still doesn't get it.
Look, I don't think Prager is a racist. I don't think he's a bigot. I think he's afraid. Afraid of the future. Afraid of the future. Afraid of the future. I mean, and he's not unique. America is changing. It's changing in the backgrounds of the people, in the religion of the people. And now we're in a situation where there's low-level anxiety between Muslims and non-Muslims in this country and outside of the country.
But wait, when you're talking about fear, are you saying in the wake of 9/11 that many non-Muslims are willing to make the presumption that the Muslim sitting next to them is not a good Muslim, but a bad Muslim, and may blow up a building?
I think it goes beyond that. It's not just afraid of that. I think they're afraid of the future of America, what America is changing into. It's no longer where 99% of the people look the same or have the same religion and so on. The America of the future is going to be different. It's going to be a multi-religious society. It's going to be a multiracial society, and some people are scared of that.
Okay, but this isn't new. There are 535 members of Congress. One Muslim, all of a sudden, let's freak out. I mean, that's nonsense. The fact of the matter is, we have had change in America. We had a woman sworn in as Speaker of the House. That's changed. We've had African Americans, more black members of Congress today than ever. That has changed.
Sworn in on?
Well, first of all, they chose the Bible.
But
again, what they chose to sworn is irrelevant. The Constitution is very clear when it comes to religious freedom. And what amazes me is that Prager and these...
Once again, he says this is not about religious freedom.
No, it is.
He says that this guy had a choice to use any book he wanted to. He grants him that right.
But yes, but again, he chose to use the Quran as opposed to the Bible. It's his faith. As a Christian, I would be offended if someone told me, Roland, you cannot swear on anything but the Quran.
Would you have preferred for Keith Ellison to have been sworn in the photo op portion of it, with a Bible or the Quran?
No, because, again, if I was elected to Congress, I would swear on the Bible, and I would not allow anybody to tell me you must swear on something else. He has the right to choose what he wanted to get sworn in on.
What about this broader idea Dennis Prager was making about Keith Ellison was sending a very powerful signal to other Muslims outside of this country that were ripe for the Islamization of America.
You know, the second enormous problem with his line of thinking, he equates Islam with terrorism. So he says, you know, if you swear on the Quran and you say you're Muslim, that encourages terrorism.
But
that's crazy talk.
A lot of Americans feel that.
That's exactly my point.
No, can I make this one?
They're nuts too.
Every single shooter, school shooter in America was a Christian white boy. So should we have a war against Christian white boys? No, that's crazy.
Do you think Muslims, moderate Muslims, deserve any blame for the kind of hardened attitudes among non-Muslims towards them?
Look, do moderate Christians, I'm sorry, do moderate Christians deserve blame from Timothy McVeigh Should they be called on the mat?
Look,
hey, why
10
don't you call them out?
seconds. We'll come back. You got 10 seconds.
No, I think this is part of the overall tension between Muslims and non-Muslims in the world. Yeah, I mean, Americans look at TV, they see bombings, and they see Muslims doing a bunch of stuff, and in their mind they're thinking, why aren't moderate Muslims doing something about it? Yeah, we have a role as moderate Muslims to stand up and say, hey, these extremists are nuts and so on, and maybe we did fail a little bit, but that doesn't justify what Krager is doing. And I think this is the problem right now.
All right, Roland Martin, Kamal Nawash, Cenk Uygur, stay right there. We'll be checking back with you in a little bit. Right now, we're bringing you another story out in the open tonight about fear and intolerance when American Muslims try to build a mosque in a Christian neighborhood. You might be surprised to learn that a respected Baptist preacher, a man with a law degree, who was once an NFL player, launched a campaign against a mosque in Florida. And let's bring back out tonight's out in the open panel, Roland Martin, Kamal Nawash, Cenk Uygur. Again, good to have you back with us. There are some other people in America who feel the way this preacher does.
Yeah.
Do you really believe America is at a point where they don't make a distinction between good Muslims and bad Muslims?
I'm afraid they don't. A new poll came out fairly recently saying 39% of Americans want Muslims to carry ID with them so they can, I mean, that scares me. That reminds me of Germany. And this kind of thinking is ridiculous. It's like saying, well, okay, let's look at Christianity and see if it's violent. You know, we got World War I, we got World War II, we got the Crusades, we got the Grand Inquisition in Spain, we got the Holocaust. You want to talk about a violent religion? And I can bring you out violent verses, parts of the Bible that'll make your head blow up. And so he's talking about how Muslims are violent. It's ridiculous for a Christian to say that.
But he had a more specific issue about his community. He is very concerned that if this mosque gets built there, that these young, desperate black men are going to be preyed upon and given away to thrash back at the community. And you got it. Listen, he's not alone. There are a lot of people feel that it will, and we even heard it in the piece from Texas, that it will open the doors potentially for Islamic extremists to come to town.
Look, at some point we need to be honest with ourselves. This is not the issue. This is not about building a mosque. This is the same exact issue as Congressman Allison, people not wanting him to take the oath on the Quran. There is international tension right now between Americans and Muslims. If you go to the Muslim world, they'll say, oh, America's out to get us. America's trying to destroy us. If you come to America, a lot of Americans believe that the Muslims are out to get them. I mean, this is a genuine fear.
That's what happens
it
when
needs
you
to be
Iraq.
it needs to be discussed. We need to have an honest discussion. But to pinpoint situations, well, this guy is opposed to a mosque, that this is not what it's about. Americans are afraid of Muslims, and Muslims are afraid of Americans.
That is what it's about. And for this particular pastor here, I'm sure he is watching. Well, let me say this. He is probably a sorry example of what a Christian pastor is. Maybe he should call Ralph Douglas West in Houston or James Meeks in Chicago to learn what a pastor is. Because if he is afraid that a mosque is going to attract young black men, that means that his ministry is sorry. That means he's not doing his job in his community. And so what he is doing is fostering hate. And so to hide behind the Bible.
He says that Islam is an evil, cruel, dangerous faith.
Well, and I wonder if he spoke against Eric Rudolph, who set the bomb off in Atlanta at 1996 Olympics. I wonder who also killed abortion doctors. You have Christians who are extremists. You have Muslims who are extremists. You have Jews who are extremists. And so you must deal with those people who operate in the extreme. But for him to stand here and talk about this mosque having a negative impact in the community, well, let's talk about the black Muslims who have taken over public housing complexes and made them much safer. I haven't seen many Christians stand out there and fight for that. So maybe he should focus on his weak ministry as opposed to the Muslims and the mosque.
How do you decrease this distrust between Muslims and Christians
all
over the world?
Paula, you unite them, and you unite them by getting the moderate Christians, the moderate Jews, the moderate Muslims all together and saying our real enemy isn't Islam, because if it is, we're in a lot of trouble. That's 1 billion people we got to fight, right? Our real enemy are the fundamentalists, the extremists. In fact, Reverend Dozier is part of the enemy, because he's a fundamentalist.
Yes, he is.
He's an extremist. And unfortunately, this administration is part of the enemy, because they're fundamentalists, they're extremists, and they went in and attacked a country that didn't have anything to do with 9/11, and they still haven't gotten Osama bin Laden.
Here's the problem with what they're both saying, is that these attitudes are no longer being held by extremists, neither on the Muslim side nor on the American side. The unfortunate thing, there are a lot of mainstream people in America who genuinely have these feelings.
Why?
And so to just attack them, just to say it's extremism is not enough. We need to address these issues.
But they have,
we need to discuss them. I mean,
has a lot to do with 9/11.
9/11 had something to do with it.
They do that because they haven't read. They don't talk to anybody. They're operating on ignorance.
We need to talk, and that's what I'm saying. We need to have a discussion.
Time out. The discussion will continue on the other side. Roland Martin, Kamal Nawash, Cenk Uygur. Stay there because we will move on.